To win races seems very difficult because Mercedes is at a very high level.
Far performance-wise, Mercedes are still ahead.
Listen, guys, Ferrari just pulled off something absolutely unbelievable, and they didn't even need to win a race to do it. Hold on, because while Hamilton and Leclerc are literally fighting each other inside the garage, Ferrari just got their biggest rivals banned by the FIA. Let me show you something. Mercedes and Red Bull had a secret engine trick, giving them an unfair speed advantage. And Ferrari exposed it, a political masterpiece. Is 2026 the year Ferrari finally takes over? Let's break it down. The secret weapon. Now, before we get into the drama, you need to understand what this trick actually was, because once you hear it, you'll realize just how clever and how dangerous it really was. So in 2026, F1 introduced brand new power units. And with any new rules, teams immediately start hunting for loopholes. Mercedes and Red Bull found a massive one. Here's how it worked. Normally, as a car approaches the finish line at the end of a qualifying lap, the rules say the power must gradually reduce, dropping 50 kilowatts every single second. This is called the ramp down, and it exists so cars don't suddenly lose all power and become a safety hazard on track. But Mercedes and Red Bull figured out a sneaky bypass. If a team shuts down the MGUK, that's the electric motor, for a so-called emergency, the ramp down rule doesn't apply. So instead of losing power, the driver gets a full blast of 50 to 100 kilowatts of extra energy right at the end of the lap, exactly when every single hundredth of a second matters most in qualifying. The danger nobody talked about. Now here's where it gets really scary, because this wasn't just about speed, it was genuinely dangerous. When a driver shuts down the MGUK, the rules say they lose access to it for the next 60 seconds. That's fine after crossing the finish line, but think about what happens to other drivers still on hot laps. Kimi Antonelli was seen almost crawling through corners at Suzuka. Max Verstappen was limping through the famous S's with zero power. And Williams driver Alex Albon actually stopped on track completely during practice. Imagine a car running at full qualifying speed suddenly coming across another car barely moving. That's not a loophole anymore, that's a time bomb. Ferrari saw exactly this and immediately went to the FIA asking serious questions. They acknowledged the trick was technically legal, but they made it very clear this cannot continue. And the FIA listened. Ferrari's political masterpiece. And this is where Ferrari's real genius comes in, because they didn't just complain, they played the game perfectly. While Mercedes and Red Bull were busy celebrating their little qualifying advantage, Ferrari was quietly building their case using safety concerns, and that is a card the FIA simply cannot ignore in any situation. The FIA has now officially banned the trick through a technical directive ahead of the Miami Grand Prix. Teams have been warned that the MGUK emergency mode must only be used in genuine technical emergencies, and telemetry will be closely monitored for any misuse. Ferrari won this battle without upgrading a single part on their car, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. Miami is next, and Red Bull just got even slower. For a team that was already struggling in 6th place in the Constructors' Championship, this is a devastating blow. The drivers' revolt. Russell and Verstappen versus FIA. But Ferrari's political win wasn't the only major story happening during this break, because the drivers themselves had finally had enough. On Monday, the 13th of April, GPDA Chairman George Russell and Max Verstappen joined a virtual meeting with the FIA and Formula One management to discuss the 2026 regulations directly. The meeting was described as positive and productive, which in F1 language means the drivers said some very uncomfortable things, very politely. And honestly, you can understand the frustration. The 2026 cars had this phenomenon called superclipping, where drivers literally have to slow down on straights because the battery runs out of energy. At Suzuka, one driver lost 55 kilometers per hour of top speed in a straight line. Verstappen described it brutally. He said, "It feels like Formula E on steroids." And with the vote scheduled for April 20th, right before Miami, the pressure is on the FIA to fix things before the season completely runs away from them. The beautiful chaos inside Ferrari. Now let's talk about the most entertaining storyline in F1 right now, because Ferrari doesn't just have one great driver, they have two drivers who genuinely believe they deserve to be number one, and the sparks are already flying. Leclerc leads the championship standings with 49 points, sitting in third place overall. Hamilton is right behind him on 41 points in fourth. On paper, it looks close, but the story behind those numbers is absolutely fascinating. In China, these two went to absolute war. Hamilton surged into the lead from third on the grid at the very start, going around the outside of both Mercedes cars in one of the most aggressive opening moves of the season. After 26 races in red, the moment finally arrived. Hamilton said it himself, it was the biggest challenge of his career just to get that podium, and he took it by beating his own teammate in one of the most entertaining intra-team battles F1 has seen in years. Fred Vasseur's nightmare. But here's the problem for Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur, and it is a genuinely beautiful nightmare to have. Leclerc was gracious after China. He admitted Hamilton was stronger that weekend and said he enjoyed the fight. But Leclerc is the prince of Maranello. He has been at Ferrari for years. He bleeds red, and he has been chasing his first world title his entire career. He will not simply move aside for anyone, not even a 7-time world champion. And Hamilton, let me show you something. The old Lewis is back. Aggressive on the brakes, fearless in side-by-side combat, and hungry in a way that his difficult 2025 season never showed. Vasseur has two absolute weapons in his garage, but if they keep destroying each other's races the way they did in China, where their battle let Antonelli and Russell pull away, Ferrari will keep finishing second and third when they could be fighting for victories. Miami will be the next big test, and with the engine trick now banned and rivals potentially weakened, this Ferrari civil war is about to get even more intense and even more entertaining. The bigger picture. So here is where we stand heading into Miami. Ferrari didn't win a race in Australia, China, or Japan, but they've come out of the break stronger than anyone expected. Their rivals just got a key weapon taken away. Their drivers are both performing at the highest level, and the team is right in the championship fight. The question now is simple. Can Ferrari stop fighting themselves long enough to actually fight Mercedes? Because if Hamilton and Leclerc ever truly start pulling in the same direction, this championship is wide open. Miami is coming, and Ferrari is ready. Don't miss it.